Hello and welcome to A Cat in the Garden. Saffron is feeling extra chatty today. Not really sure why. Maybe a bit needy, but she's really cute and she was hanging out in the plant room while I was getting ready to film, so I figured I would show her off a little bit today. Plus, I think you guys seem to really like her. I love that. I think she's great. A lot of people that I know personally find her annoying with her meow, but most of the time it's not. She's just a good girl. She's got a voice and she likes to use it, you know? She can't really help that too much, so I kind of excuse her for it, and I don't mind. She's a sweet girl, but we're here today to talk about houseplants. And I know it's a little bit early in the month to be talking about my favorite houseplants of the month, but I figured why not? You know, I've been in this room so much this month, taking care of pests, watering, cleaning out this cabinet, just doing all of the things, propagating. So I've just been with the houseplants a lot this month. It's also been way too hot outside to do much of anything in the garden other than watering. I'm just trying to keep the plants out there alive at this point. So I want to talk about the houseplants that are thriving and that are my favorite houseplants for the month. Saffron is going to go look at birds and look at cars that are driving by because that's just what she's into right now. Maybe catch a bug because it seems like maybe a bug flew in here. So I'll go let her do that and we'll talk about some houseplants. My first favorite for the month is going to be a newer one. This is the Hoya species parah albow. It's gorgeous. It has been growing so much since I got it. I have not repotted it yet. I just have it in here for drainage purposes. So it's in the same pot as when I got it. I got it as a rooted cutting. If you guys remember, it had this really full look on the bottom and a stem was just starting to grow. So that's been growing, and let me see, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 new leaves since I got it. I want to say it's about a month ago now. Thank you, Saffron. It's been about a month and it's really happy. It's just doing very well. The leaves are still hardening off the new ones, so sometimes it's hard for me to gauge if it's thirsty or not, just because a lot of these leaves are newer, but it's been really fun. There's a little bit of splash on the newer leaves. It's got really good stable variegation. On the higher side, I would say, for a margin variegated houseplant. Most that I see look more like this older leaf, but I guess from the area where it grew was a higher variegation part, and it just looks really nice. It's been very easy so far. I do need to fertilize it still. I should probably do that soon, but it's growing. So I'm not gonna complain about it. It's a very happy Hoya, and it's been a pleasure to have in my collection. I'm so glad that I bought it just on a whim because it's great. I absolutely love albow variegated. I absolutely love outer variegated plants. And this one has been so much fun. So you'll probably see more updates on this in the future as it grows. I'm hoping pretty soon I can get it on some sort of trellis just because it's vining out in a really nice way. But yeah, this is really fun and I just had to include it on the list this month. The next plant is an Anthurium, and it is one of the bigger Anthuriums in my collection. So this is the Besseae Affinity crossed with Magnificum, and of course I had to include it because it's growing a beautiful new leaf. I do like how this sinus looks a little wider compared to this one. I love the bunny ears look, but also a little bit of a wider sinus I think is going to look really nice. This plant has been sizing up so beautifully. It's been growing slow and steady, but I have no complaints. I bought this a year ago and I have not repotted it. There are a couple roots swirling around the bottom, just starting to, so eventually we'll get a repot, but I think it's still got plenty of room. I think it would show signs that it was unhappy, but I mean, the oldest leaf is browning a little bit, but this one really holds on to the leaves pretty well. It takes a lot for it to brown or lose a leaf. So it's just been a really nice, easygoing plant overall. I like that it's not the fastest growing plant in the world. The emergent leaf color has been changing lately though. It used to be almost a bubblegum pink with a little hint of orange. But this leaf here is much darker. I don't really understand why that is changing, but I'm not too mad at it. I did buy it for the bubblegum pink leaves, but I'm not going to complain too much. It's still a gorgeous plant. I love it. I love the leaf shape. I love everything about it. I love how big it's getting. I just want the biggest anthuriums possible. I think that would just be so cool. That's one of my goals for my collection, is just to grow my anthuriums super big. So this one is well on its way, as well as the crystallinum behind me. They are my two biggest anthurium in my collection, and I'm just very happy with both of them. But this one, it's got the new leaf, so that's why I chose it for this month. For the next plant, I actually chose two plants, but they're the same, so I feel like it's just one plant, and they started out as one plant, but it's going to be cuttings of my Philodendron micans Velvet Halo Variegated. So this is my favorite plant in my entire collection. I love it to death. It had thrips before I really knew what thrips looked like on a plant, and I had to chop up the whole thing, all the leaves off, cut it down to nodes, and I've been propagating the nodes ever since. No more thrips at all. I've completely cleared the thrips from this plant, and it's been growing really well. I have yet to have a plant revert. I've had some really nice variegation. These are two of the nicer cuttings that were bigger that I picked out. So they all started out in much smaller cups than this, but these were growing really nicely, filling out the cups. So the other day I repotted them into these bigger cups, and there's actually new roots growing. So I'm very happy about that. They're doing really well. I am going to keep probably 2 or 3, and I'm having a very hard time deciding which 2 or 3 I'm going to keep, because I want to have multiple growing up some sort of pole, preferably a moss pole, because the leaves on halomicans can get really small if you don't give them a pole for attachment. So I want the leaves to get bigger. I want to see how big they can get, because I don't really see people online growing them with really big leaves. They pretty much look like these, and I think they can do better. I've seen big Philodendron heartleaf leaves on my Rio, on my variegated heartleaf. They're getting bigger back there. So I think there's potential. I want to see how big they can get, and I just need to pick the right specimen, but I'm really happy with how well these are doing, especially this one right here. It's just so cute. This is why it's my favorite plant. I just love that white on the margin. It is precious. And I actually have a few. I have some separated. The bigger ones are in my individual prop boxes, and then I have really small, tiny ones growing in a very small prop box in this cabinet, and some of them have a lot more white, and I'm very interested to see if that continues. But I'm just really happy that I was able to save this plant. But not only was I really able to do that, I turned it into about 35 or 40. So I have a lot of halomicans. I will, at least, if I don't get some out this fall, definitely by the spring I'll have a lot available, just because I have so many and I cannot keep 35 micans. So if you're interested, look out for that. They are very affordable now in terms of pricing. They were not when I purchased it, which is also why I was so mad at myself for almost killing that plant. But I think it is a bit of a triumph that I was able to save it and get some really nice variegation out of it. Next up is another Hoya, of course, and that is going to be the Hoya Wilbur Graves Tie. This one is finally growing. For the longest time, this plant only grew this dried up runner here and no leaves, but I have a new leaf here, a new leaf here, and an active runner, so we'll see what it does. I gave this little Arca ring plant stake to grow up on and hopefully attach to, find some stability. But I love the adorable little round leaves, and they have been, just based off of the new growth, a lot more stable than the leaf shape on the China clone that I have. I know I did a video recently talking about the different types of Wilbur Graves. My China is all over the place. The leaves are big, they're small, they're round, they're elongated, they're wavy. That plant is just nuts. This one is just very petite, Very cute, very rounded, very stable. The splash on it, it just presents the same way on the newer leaves as well, which isn't something I was able to see until now. But that leaf in particular is just gorgeous. I can't get over it. I'm really excited about this new growth. It is very well rooted and begging me for a repot. I mean, this is outside of the pot, so I guess I should do that soon. But it is really happy, so we'll see. We'll see if I get to it. But for now, it is a very happy Hoya, and I just love to see that. When my Hoyas grow, it makes me really happy, and it reminds me how much I love them as a species in general. This is why they're my favorite, because they're so stinking cute. And I also really love the thick Hoya leaves. The Wilbur graves are known for thicker leaves and say a besseae or something like that. And that's one of my favorite characteristics. I mean, it's got splash, it's got thick leaves, they're rounded, they're really cute. So what is there not to like about this Hoya? I don't know, it's super cute. Finally, I have a plant that has really put me through it, but I'm happy to say that it's not putting me through any emotional distress anymore. And that is my Scindapsus mayari. I am on a bit of a Scindapsus kick right now, so you'll probably see more Scindapsus from me in future videos. I'm obsessed with them. They're amazing. I mean, how can you not be obsessed? So I bought this for backstory at the Texas Aroid Show last year, which was 10 months ago. And it looked like it was a top cut. That's why I spent money on it. It was the most expensive plant that I bought in a while. It was $100. They're slightly cheaper now, but it's fine. I bought it, one, because it had nice variegation on this leaf here, two, because it was a top cut, and three, because it looked like there might be some active growth going on. So I took it home, put it in this cup for drainage, kind of kept it out of the most direct sunlight, because in my experience with the Scindapsus I have, they sunburn pretty easily. So I kept it in a more shaded spot, and I gave it fertilizer, and it did nothing for the first 8 months that I had it. And then finally I noticed I was actually going to repot it, because I was talking with a friend that collects a lot of Scindapsus. She's sort of my inspiration behind getting more, and she was like, you got to take it out of that chunky mix. They don't love chunky mix unless you have a crazy humid environment. And I don't grow a lot of plants in chunky mix unless they're big, at least a 6-inch pot. So I wanted to repot it, but I also didn't want to stress it out. So I was kind of juggling. I went to go repot it. I grabbed it from the shelf. It lives in the Millsbow over there. And I noticed a new growth point. I was like, well, I can't do that now. I finally got this plant to grow. And it did finally unfurl the new leaf. Probably in the last week. It's still hardening off, but it is still variegated. It's not the highest. You can see a little bit here, a little bit on the edges, but I'm just so happy it's growing. I am so happy that this plant was not a failure, because $100 is a lot. It is a lot to spend on a plant. I have spent more, but not really into that anymore. It's just not worth it in most cases. So I was feeling pretty nervous about it. I'm feeling a lot better now. It looks gorgeous. I love almost the shingling attitude of each leaf facing a different way. It's super cute. I am still looking forward to repotting it. I think it's going to be necessary, especially when I'm going to be getting it on a moss pole eventually. It's just a lot of things that have to happen with this plant, but also if something goes south, I now have 3 different nodes to work with. 3 or 4. It looks like there's a node in between the growth. So I have nodes to work with just in case something happens, and that makes me feel a little bit better about it. If something does go wrong, if it goes into shock or it doesn't like being repotted, I can hopefully propagate it. But let's just hope that that doesn't happen and it continues to look super cute like this. I love it. I do wish it was slightly more variegated, but I'm just going to be happy that I have growth at this point. I hope it continues. Maybe I can get more variegation out of it in the future. I do want to get a lot of my Scindapsus climbing, maybe get them over on this section, which I'm sort of rearranging at the moment. So we'll see what happens to it. I do think it needs another leaf or two before I can give it the moss pole. I just want it to be a little bigger, but it's happy and it's growing and it's not dying, which is what I was really worried about. I can't see the roots in here because it's not a clear pot. So there was just so much stress and worry going on with this plant. Also, another reason why you shouldn't spend $100 on a tiny plant, because you're gonna stress out about it more than you need to. If it was a $5, $10, $20 plant, it didn't do well, I'd be like, all right, fine, I'll just get a new one. But it wasn't, so I was really stressed. Not anymore, I'm very happy with it. And hopefully I can give you guys another update soon where it has even more growth. Fingers crossed, hopefully. So that is it for our 5 favorite plants for the month of August. Just feels crazy to think. I mean, August is not completely over yet, but we're more than halfway through the month. Just wild. Fall is almost here, though it doesn't feel like it in Texas at all. But, you know, maybe the weather will drop soon. I'm really hoping. Saffron is being absolutely adorable. If you agree that Saffron is being really cute right now and you want to see more of her, drop us a like down below and subscribe so you don't miss anything from us here on the channel. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll catch you in the next one.